Thank you to each of the witnesses for your very informative testimony. Senator Sheehy is going to be presiding over the Senate in a few minutes, so he has asked if he can go first, so I'm going to yield my time initially to him and recognize Senator Sheehy.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks all of you for your testimony, very enlightening. For Dr. Pincus, a question directed your way. It seems like you have a pretty informed policy view on this. You know, the only constant is change. And right now we're seeing aggressive territorial expansion efforts from Russia, obviously through force. And China is literally building islands to expand its sphere of influence, not just in the South China Sea, but as you correctly pointed out, using every tool at its disposal to grow its influence elsewhere. I think the discussion we're having here is a common sense discussion about how we can maneuver ourselves to ensure that an extremely important piece of real estate, which at the end of the day is what we're discussing, whether it's data centers, whether it's critical minerals, whether it's shipping lanes, does not fall into the wrong hands. And from your policy perspective, what is the best approach? And I think then I'll move to Mr. Gray as a secondary. What do you think is the best outcome? What's the best approach to achieve what we think the best outcome can be so that we do not allow Greenland to become a territory of our adversaries in the very near future?
Thank you so much for that question, sir. I would say that from a policy analysis perspective, which is my background, the U.S. has a range of policy options in Greenland. The choice among them entails a consideration of priority, risk, and cost. And the President and Congress will make those determinations and set policy. I do think that a thorough review of various scenarios and contingencies would be worthwhile exercise to carefully review the range of possible scenarios for Greenland's futures and evaluate a set of options for the United States, again, along those parameters of priority, risk, and cost. We have heard that Greenland is in a global context in which we have options that span across the Pacific in terms of different approaches to our relationship with Greenland. So we have both a geographical span to consider here, as well as, I would say, an evolution over time. Greenland has been very important to the United States missile defense for decades. And so we have an enduring significance there as well. So I think thinking about sort of geographical span, risk over time, and then those questions of priority, risk, and cost would merit a very thorough review. I welcome this discussion here today, but I think a more in-depth analysis of the various options would give you better grounds for making those determinations. Thank you.
Senator, I agree with you completely that the threat is very real. And the threat of both Russian and Chinese penetration in Greenland, and not just in Greenland, but in the high north more generally, is something we have to be very attuned to. We've seen it not just in Greenland, but in the Faroe Islands. We've seen it in Svalbard. We've seen it all over that high north region. To me, the number one objective of the United States in Greenland has to be the same that it's been since the 1860s, which is to prevent, deny access and control to an adversary power who would use that space to threaten our homeland and our hemisphere. To me, the best way to do that, ideally, would be as an insular area of the United States, one of the 15th insular area that we have. Alternatively, if that was not feasible for whatever political or other reason, I think the alternative of a compact of free association, whereby critically we would have military access, but I think even more significantly, similar to our Pacific friends in Palau, RMI, and Micronesia, we would have the right of denial to deny formally and through a legal mechanism the right of a foreign adversary to use that space. I think that would be the ideal American solution.
What do you think that's not going to come for free. So what's that going to cost?
Well, I can tell you, sir, in the instance of Palau, Micronesia, Marshall Islands, it does cost development assistance. It costs, in Palau, we have a trust fund that we funded for decades. It is on the order of hundreds of billions of dollars. But I think, one, it solves a security dilemma that we have had for decades or centuries. And two, Mr. Marchese is much more eloquent on the natural resources side of this, but there are tremendous economic opportunities that I think can offset some of these costs if we do this strategically and thoughtfully. So I think there are ways to offset the cost, in short, Senator.
Great. Thank you.